I mean, think about that. That's such a wild proposition. Not only are you not going to be, we're going to sue you and get some money from you, but you can't even make decisions that are going to be affecting you for the next 12 years. All right. So, first one, Florida State is suing the ACC over grant of rights and the withdrawal fee. Now, think about this. CFP selection committee was on December 3rd of last season. This right here was about 19 days later. So I know you guys are thinking like, okay, it's 19 days later. Like, is this in direct correlation to them not getting into the CFP? They want to get out of the ACC. I think that that's connected, but you could see the fact that, again, there's a couple words in here that are going to be, kind of showing you the fact that they've been thinking about this for some time. Andrea Adelson, here we are from ESPN.com. She says, the Florida State Board of Trustees voted unanimously Friday, and again, this is in December, to sue the ACC to challenge the legality of the league's grant of rights and its $130 million withdrawal fee, a necessary first step to plot the school's future and potential exit from the conference. Keep in mind this, too. You're also going to learn a little bit here about legalese, because something happening in one state, in a different court, this court, that court, there's a lot of connections there that you have to kind of look through before you're able to find any sort of, universality with the law, because, it gets shot down in this court. So then a ruling in this state, it gets shot down by a ruling in this state. Happens all the time. The 38-page lawsuit filed in Leon County Court in Tallahassee, Florida, keep in mind there, Tallahassee, Florida, where the Florida State was filing, seeks a declaratory judgment against the ACC to void the grant of rights and withdrawal fee, quote, as unreasonable restraints of trade in the state of Florida and not enforceable in the entirety against Florida State. The university alleges, and this is the most important line of the entire article here, the university alleges chronic fiduciary mismanagement and bad faith in the way the ACC has handled its multimedia rights agreements and undermined its members' revenue opportunities. Florida State is also accusing the ACC of breach of contract and failure to perform. And again, I'm not really going to go here into what they say, because it's, well, we believe that this is absolutely right. Of course they do. But you see here now it says Florida State is in unprecedented territory. No school has ever challenged a grant of rights in court. ACC officials have previously used the word ironclad. Now think about that. ACC officials, about their own grant of rights, says the word ironclad to describe the document, and that has been the operating assumption from the leagues across the country, believing the language in the document is so rigid it would prevent schools from leaving. But because no school has ever challenged the document in court, nobody actually knows whether it is indeed as ironclad as described. So, really important here. And if things you'll have to understand a couple times here. So I have, my boss was a former lawyer, and he talks to me about a couple things here. So think about this. When you see fiduciary mismanagement, so what does that mean? So as an example, if you're going to a financial advisor and they are not a fiduciary, get out of there. What I mean by that is that a financial advisor can advise you to do anything. He can advise you to invest in this stock, that stock. He can advise you to invest it in a pig farm. He can advise you to do it into some illicit trades. Whatever it is, he can advise you to do that. But if it's not a fiduciary, if something goes wrong, it's like, hey, I was just advising you, man. I wasn't, I don't have any obligation to get any of this stuff right. Whereas a fiduciary has to basically kind of prove they know what they're talking about. Basically, what that means is that a fiduciary has a legal responsibility to do what is best in what's the term? The best interests of your money for where they're going to put it. So the issue with that is that the university handed over its rights and its television rights to the ACC for it to handle it. And they basically said, hey, you're going to fiduciarily, I don't know if that's a word or not, handle our money and put us in the best spot going forward. Well, unfortunately, a couple things here. One, the ACC does not have uneven revenue distribution. And you and I both know, listen, I love Duke football. I love their win against Clemson earlier this year. It was really cool. They do not make as much money or bring in as many eyeballs, Duke football, as Florida State football. It's just not close. It is what it is. So you can maybe make the case that, okay, well, we're bringing in way more revenue. We're bringing in way more eyeballs, and we're getting an even payout. So we're kind of losing money there. So again, you're fiduciarily supposed to be taking care of us, and you're kind of not. Also, the fact that they signed that deal from 2016 through 2036. Think about this right now. We still have on the docket right now, there's 12 more years of this ACC deal that it's not bad. I mean, it's not terrible, but it is getting to the point to where eventually Florida State and Miami, if the Big 12's revenue can grow within a couple of agreements in between now and that 12 years, because 12 years is a long time. I believe that the Big 10 signed a 7-year deal, something like that. Big 12 signed something like that too. So with that, if they could sign another deal after that with a little bit more inflation, with a little bit more revenue, growth, expansion of teams, UCF in the Big 12 could eventually make more money from their payments from the conference than Florida State does from the ACC. Again, if you're the ACC, no, not if you're the ACC. If you're ESPN, you are absolutely positively jacked at this deal. You're getting a steal right now because you're paying out Florida State for not as much as they're worth, and you're getting a ton of revenue back from it in terms of ad space and so on. So you're looking at that and you're right there. You're thinking, wow, ESPN and the ACC have no interest in changing this, but for Florida State, they are, because it's like, okay, well, first of all, we're beating Florida on the field, but they're destroying us off the field in terms of revenue generation. This is not fair. Again, that is the big point there. They say ironclad. I don't really know about that with ironclad. I will tell you guys, I have some anecdotal evidence here. So a non-compete agreement, non-competes across the country, unless there's an extremely specific scenario, non-competes are being overturned. They're being drastically limited across the country. How a non-compete applies to a conference's grant of rights deal, I do not know. I do know that the state governments and local governments are being more and more strict with the fact of the language that's used in these quote unquote ironclad deals. I would say a non-compete would be included in there. It's just so vague that it's like, all right, so again, it's rigid. It would prevent schools from leaving, but it's like, you can't be completely rigid in that way. You also can't be unrealistic. And also, if you, on top of the fact that you're not managing the money very well, that could void the contract out. Again, you can't put anything you want in a deal. Okay, like if you're going to get a what's the term if I want to say here? If you're going to get a prenup with a woman out there, you go out there and get married, you get a prenup. You can't say, yeah, you know what? If she doesn't wash my car and cook my food and give me a little hey whenever I want to, I got to cut her right foot off. You don't get to do that. Okay, that's not legal. You don't get to just void out or sign away your rights to somebody. Again, it can't be something completely unconscionable. So with the fact, again, they're going to have to try and make the point here that if they go to court with the ACC, they're going to have to make the point that what the ACC is doing is so bad and irresponsible that there's no way you would actually sign it if that's what the ACC's definition of fiduciary management meant. They think it's chronically fiduciary mismanagement. That's a tough one to say right there. But again, that's that. So that's what the ACC has done. We are going to go to that was what Florida State has done. We're now going to go to what the ACC has done. So you knew it was going to be not too long before the ACC has responded here. So you see here from Pete Thamel just this last week, the ACC court filing accuses Florida State of breach of contract and seeks damages. The ACC filed an amended complaint in North Carolina Superior Court on Tuesday seeking damages from Florida State for, quote, several breaches of critical legal promises and obligations and questioned Florida State's right to have leadership in ACC positions. I'm telling you right here, the reason why I want to talk about this was because this big point right here is bar none, not even close, the end game. Not only is Florida State says you're mismanaging our money. ACC says, well, you're damaging the conference by your breaches of your critical legal promises and obligations, and you're doing so to the point to where we now no longer want you to be involved in decisions about leadership positions in the ACC. That is crazy. What that basically means is this is the end game. The end game basically means it's reached a point in which one or both players are about to lose. In this instance, I wouldn't be surprised if both in some way. Remember, the best negotiation and the best deal is both sides being just a little bit upset as what they had to give up. The 55-page filing in Mecklenburg County marks the latest in the procedural jockeying between the ACC and Florida State over the school's, quote, challenge to the league's grant of rights. That was the last article that we had. Like I said before, Florida State filed in Leon County, and Mecklenburg County in Virginia is where our dear friends at the ACC filed theirs as well. They said the complaint includes a new claim for potentially substantial damages from alleged contract breaches. The conference, quote, the conference have and recover of Florida State damages for its breach of the ACC Constitution and bylaws in an amount to be proven at trial, but which the conference believes will be substantial. That, in addition to what everybody says right now, and this is the crazy part, down here at the bottom, there's going to be a section here. I believe it might have been the other article there, but it said that right now it looks like the ACC made it clear that its amended complaint that FSU accepted, quote, hundreds of millions of dollars as part of the ACC media agreements for more than a decade. Basically saying, we paid you a bunch of money. You knew this deal was through 2036. It is irrevocable. It's exclusive. It is what it is. You signed it. You're with it. Get over it. With that, not only have they said that, but they also said that it looks like if the language reads the way the language is supposed to read, the ACC would be owed, or not necessarily the ACC would be owed, but Florida State would owe the ACC something like $572 million just to get out of the deal. It is some number that is absolutely bonkers. It is such a ridiculous number. $500 million just so you can play a couple extra 6 home games and 6 away games in a different conference. And actually, it's the ACC, so it would probably be 7 and 5. But you know what I'm trying to say, okay? All I'm saying here is this is bananas. Whether or not it gets to that point or not, I don't know. But I have an interesting point here with this. Give me just 1 second to pull up this last link here. So, got the screen here with all the ACC teams on it right now. Up here at the top, they have the current teams. But over here, here's what they've got. They've got Boston College, Cal, very important here in a second. Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, North Carolina State, Pitt, SMU, important. Stanford, very important. Syracuse, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. So think about this. Right now, I'm guessing if Florida State goes, Miami's coming with them, okay? Because the Big Ten, they want a presence in Southern California. They got a presence in the Northwest, the Northeast. They also want to have a presence in the Southeast. What would be better than, and again, remember here, apparently the SEC, Georgia, and Florida do not want Florida State and or Miami in the conference. They want to be the exclusive members there. However, unfortunately, with that, if that's true, the Big Ten has no problems with going down to Florida State and Miami and adding those two because they don't care about whether or not people got to fly all over the place. They're making so much money anyways. So with that, we're going to say Florida State, Miami. I think Clemson's in there, and I know for sure that North Carolina is. Virginia is the one that I don't know. Virginia is an entity that I think that the Big Ten and the SEC might want. I know that North Carolina is an entity wanted by the SEC. They don't have a presence in North Carolina, so they want to do something like that. But the Big Ten has been a little bit more, let's get some big markets, let's get some big teams, let's get big games, let's add Florida State, let's add Miami. I think they'd be more interested in them. Clemson, we'll see. And then, like I said before, North Carolina, we'll see. Virginia, we'll see. But the rest of these teams, Boston College, Cal, very important, Duke, Georgia Tech, AAU institution, Louisville, North Carolina State, Pitt, AAU institution, SMU in Dallas, not all the way across the country. We got Stanford and Stanford in California, Syracuse, AAU institution. We have Virginia, which is a maybe, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. Of those 16 teams right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Did I do something wrong? 17? Oh, Notre Dame's in there somewhere for a non-conference. Again, my counting's terrible. I apologize. Think about that. 4 of them leave. 16, 4 of them leave. 12 left. I think those 12 stay together. And the reason why is because of Cal and Stanford. Now, Stanford's down here. So with that, we see Pitt, AAU. We see Georgia Tech, AAU, Duke, AAU, Stanford, and Cal, 2 of the best universities in the country. I think that they would stick together. I know everybody says the same thing's going to happen to the Pac-12 that just happened to the ACC. First of all, that gives way too much credence to the ACC to mess it up as badly as the Pac-12 messed up, because you have to literally try to mess it up like the Pac-12 messed it up. They did their own thing with that. But I'm basically saying here is that if that's true, I think that the next teams that they would want to add, I don't think they would go to the Big 12. I think they would go to an easier one to add there. Also, it's something closer to the southeast region of the United States. Not necessarily all the way southeast, but kind of in the, definitely below the Mason-Dixon line. I'm thinking Tulane, AAU institution. I'm thinking Rice in Houston. They have Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, right there in the middle of the country. I also think if they lose Florida State and Miami, they have no presence in Florida. They need a really good school. South Florida's building on-campus stadium. I'm not saying, I'm just saying I think that that's something that's not out of the realm of possibilities for the ACC. Like I said, I do not suspect we're going to have an ACC collapse like the Pac-12 because hopefully cooler heads will prevail and they'll figure, again, you never know. These are public institutions. And I remember Matt Brown said that university presidents know very little about sports and they know even less about sports business. So it's always within the realm of possibilities that could happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cal and Stanford, who now are, I'm telling you right now, they are, as much as they don't move the needle on the football field, they are a surprisingly influential entities off the field. Don't be surprised if they're like, let's just add some good schools here. We've already got, again, we could go after some Big 12 teams, maybe. Kansas is a really good school. We could use something like that. But I'm betting that as much as the Big 12 thinks they're going to be able to take from them, just like they took from the Pac 12, I don't think it's going to happen the same way. I think that the ACC's hopefully, you never know, you're hopefully going to be like, let's think about this. Let's add some schools here. We'll add some some southern schools there that kind of connect Tulane, Tampa, Houston. They all, integrate reasonably well with the rest of the league there. We'll add them in. They're good schools. We'll do something like that. That's what I think is going to happen here if Florida State gets out. Because if Florida State gets out, Miami's going, Clemson's going, North Carolina's going to try and go. Virginia might. I don't know what to make of Virginia or not, but it's something like that. I don't really know. We talked about Florida State and all them. Like I said, I think that we're headed for an end game there. You saw that article there that basically said that not only is Florida State suing for the fiduciary mismanagement, that now the ACC is saying, oh no, actually, as a matter of fact, not only are we going to sue you for the damages you're causing by all this conversation, we're suing you, and we're also going to make sure that you're no longer involved in leadership membership of the ACC. You can't make decisions. Think about that. That's such a wild proposition. Not only are you not going to we're going to sue you and get some money from you, but you can't even make decisions that are going to be affecting you for the next 12 years. Wild. You guys get in the comments right now. Let me know what you guys think. That is it for me, guys. I will see you guys later. I am out.